Act I of A Man's World, a play in 4 acts. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. A Man's World, a play in 4 acts by Rachel Crothers. Act I. Characters: Frank Ware, Leone Brune, Clara Oakes, Kitty, Malcolm Gaskell, Fritz Bahn, Wells Trevor, Emile Grimaud. A Man's World, Act I. Time, the present, 8 o'clock, a winter evening. Scene: Frank Ware's living room in an old house in lower New York. There is a door at C. back leading into hall, one at left leading into sleeping room. A wide window cuts off the upper right corner diagonally. Another window is down right. At left, a large old fashioned fireplace of white marble. Low open bookshelves fill the wall spaces. In the upper corner left is a large round table on which are magazines, a lamp, a box of cigarettes, and a bowl of red apples. At left center a very large upholstered davenport facing the fire at a slanting angle. Below the fire a large armchair. At back a baby grand piano stands right of the door C., the keyboard facing the window, a single chair before it. Below piano a small round table holding books and a work basket, a chair at left of this table. Well out from the window right is a large table desk with a chair on either side. The desk holds a student's lamp, magazines, newspapers, brass desk furnishings, and a great quantity of manuscripts, letters, etc. On the bookshelves are vases, several busts in bronze and white, old bowls, a large Victory in white, and a great quantity of pictures on the walls, water colours, oils, sketches, all good. The walls and ceilings are done in faded old frescoes, and there is a centre gas chandelier of an old fashioned design. The furniture is all old, but solid, and the general air is that of past elegance grown shabby, and invaded by up to date comfort and cheerfulness. At curtain, Kitty Ware, a sturdy boy of 7, is lying full length on sofa looking into fire. After a slight pause he rises, punches pillow, and sulkily crosses to piano. With one finger he plays "Can you come out to night, boys?" 3 times, with one note always wrong. He then crosses to window and looks eagerly out into the street. There is a soft rap at the door C. Pause, and the rap is repeated. KITTY (lifelessly). Come. FRITZ (opening the hall door). Wie geht's? Hello. KITTY (without turning). Hello. Fritz Bahn is a young German. He is in evening clothes and carries a shabby top coat, a cap, and a violin case. FRITZ Where is die Frankie Mutter? KITTY (still not turning). She hasn't come yet. FRITZ Ach, she is late. Don't you worry. She comes soon. It is not 8 o'clock already. Goes to child at window. KITTY I want Frankie. FRITZ Ach Gott. So do I, but we don't get everything we want. KITTY (still not turning from window). Why don't she come? FRITZ I think she has had a very busy day with that old publisher down town to day. She will be so tired, un? Yeah, I think it. Don't look all the time on the outside. She not come so. Look a little on the inside and she come. So. KITTY Light all the gas. She likes it. FRITZ (lighting the gas). So. Der is one. Der is two. Der is drei. So. Better? Un? Who lighted the first one for you already? KITTY Old Grumper when she brought my supper. She was awfully cross tonight. FRITZ No, is dot so? KITTY Light the lamp. FRITZ (Lighting student lamp on desk.) Oh yeah. Die light at the shrine. So. We are ready for her. Un? What did you do today? KITTY Nothing. FRITZ Nothing? Didn't you go to school? KITTY Yes. FRITZ And didn't that nice girl that takes care of you take you to the park this afternoon? KIDDIE Yes. FRITZ Oh, did she go home already? KIDDIE Yes. FRITZ And you was alone this evening waiting for the Frankie Mutter. Ain't you going to smile yet? What will make you smile now? Shall I tell you such a funny story about Kris Kringle what's coming down your chimney next month already? Kiddie shakes his head. No. Shall I? Kiddie (solemnly). Be a monkey. FRITZ (Hopping on a chair and imitating a monkey.) Ach Gott, das is too easy. KIDDIE I like that. FRITZ Well, I am glad you like something. KIDDIE (Going to kick the end of a couch.) I want Frankie to come. FRITZ Du lieber. Can't you forget a little? She comes soon now. I think she is eating her dinner already down in the restaurant. KIDDIE She's going to take me to dinner to eat with her down in that restaurant. She said so. FRITZ No. How fine. I will have to get invited on that time. You think I can? KIDDIE Sing a song. FRITZ All my tricks, un? Going to piano he begins a German song extravagantly. After first few bars loud voices are heard in hall singing same tune. Wells and Emile bang on the door and enter arm in arm singing. WELLS For heaven's sake, can't you hear anything but your own voice? Emile Que faites-vous? Ouh la la, tenez! Où est la divinite? Où est la divinite? Wells Trevors is a happy-go-lucky young American, good-looking and good-natured. He wears a shabby lounging coat. Emile Grimaud is a small Frenchman of the unmistakable artist type. He wears a blue working blouse. WELLS Where's Frankie? Kiddie? KIDDIE She hasn't come home yet. FRITZ (Rising from piano and going to Wells thumping him in the ribs.) It's too early already. Don't you know anything? Emile He knows nothing. WELLS I know a good sport when I see one. (Going to Kiddie.) Kiddie, old man, doesn't care when Frank gets home, do you? He can take care of himself, can't you? (Wells doubles his fist and makes a pass at Kiddie, to which Kiddie quickly responds. They move to C. going on with mock fight.) FRITZ Give it to him, Kiddie. Gut. See? Ach du lieber Himmel, keep at him. You have him going. Wells doubles back to L. towards the couch. Kiddie is excited with his victory. Emile Voila! See ze little champion. En garde. Bien. Voila. FRITZ Reach for the chin. Emile No, no. Kick him with ze feet. Wells falls full length backwards on couch among pillows. Kiddie wildly excited. FRITZ (Snatching a newspaper from the desk and giving it to Kiddie.) Here, here, fan him. You must be goot to a man when he is down. WELLS (Gasping.) Where am I? FRITZ You are with friends. Kiddie takes paper and holds it at arm's length in both hands, fanning Wells laboriously. Have you got your wind already? Emile (Laughing.) I wonder where is the cigarette? Oh, le voila. WELLS Let me have that paper, Kiddie. Did you see a criticism of Frank's book this morning? Emile No, I had not ze time. I have painted all day like mad. I have had ze most wonderful WELLS Here you are. (Finding the article.) The Beaten Path is the strongest thing that Frank Ware has ever done. Her first work attracted wide attention when we thought Frank Ware was a man. But now that we know she is a woman, we are more than ever impressed by the strength and scope of her work. She has laid her scenes this time on the East Side in the wretched poverty of the tenement houses, and the marvel is that any woman could see and know so much and depict crime and degradation so boldly. Her great cry is for women, to make them better by making them freer. It is decidedly the most striking book of the year. Kiddie (with a heavy sigh goes back to the window.) Bully good criticism. FRITZ It's a bully goot book. WELLS You bet it is. Where does she get her stuff, anyway? After all, what's the point? How does she get it? Emile There is only one way. (Rising and stretching himself complacently, standing with back to fire.) A woman only gets what a man gives her. Fritz draws Kiddie away from the window and sitting right of desk takes him on his knee. WELLS (Still lying on couch.) Lione says the man is Gaskell. EMILE. Zut! Gaskell has not the romance, the mystery, the charm for a secret love. FRITZ (Attracting Kiddie's attention from the others by showing him a trick with his fingers.) Can you do dot? It is not so easy, hein? WELLS I'm hanged if I can tell whether it is Gaskell or not. But if it is, why the devil won't she marry him? I tell you, Malcolm Gaskell's going to be a big man some day. He's got the grip on this newspaper all right. And he's not going to let go till he's got a darn good thing. EMILE. That would be nothing to her. She wants the love of the poet, the artiste. It is not FRITZ. What are you talking about? It is not this, it is not that. It is not nobody. EMILE. Oh la la. She is a very brilliant woman, but she cannot do what is impossible. She cannot write like a man unless a man help her. And no man can make her write like that unless she love him. FRITZ (Frowning fiercely and shaking his head at Emile takes up picture to show Kiddie.) Mine gracious! Look at these beautiful ladies. KIDDIE I don't like 'em. FRITZ Ach Gott! There is Fräulein Keppel, who used to sing with dot beautiful voice when I played in the orchestra in Berlin. KIDDIE There ain't anything funny in that old paper. Why don't they have Buster Brown every day? FRITZ Ach no, they have to keep Buster so we can tell when it is Sunday. WELLS (in a lower voice to Emile) You can't see beyond the love idea. Frank isn't a French woman. What if there is a man helping her? It might be only a business deal. EMILE Oh, mon enfant. FRITZ (Rising quickly as he puts Kiddie to the floor.) You are two big fools. (To Kiddie.) Kiddie, why don't you go down to the lower hall and wait there for Frankie Mutter? KIDDIE (Going up to hall door.) I'll stay by the door and when she comes in I'll jump out at her. (He goes out. FRITZ (Going out into hall after him.) Oh my! Dot will be so funny. She will jump so high. EMILE (At fireplace.) Au revoir, mon mignon. WELLS So long, old man. KIDDIE (Calling from the hall.) I'm going to slide down the banisters. FRITZ (In the doorway.) Don't break your neck already. I will watch. Ach Gott! Be careful. There you go. (He closes door and goes down C.) So you, her friends, are talking too? EMILE Oh la la. FRITZ You have listened to de gossip, de WELLS (Throwing down paper and sitting up.) Oh, come off, Fritz. Don't get excited. I say I don't know whether it's a love affair or not. If it is Gaskell FRITZ If. Why do you always use dot mean little if? Are you cowards? Are you afraid to say it is a lie? EMILE She does not deny it. FRITZ She would not stoop to deny it. WELLS I think Frank has had some grand smash up of a love affair sometime. I don't know whether Kiddie's her child or not, don't care, none of my business. But after she's had the courage to adopt the boy and refuses to explain who he is, after she's made people respect her and accept the situation, I can't see for the life of me why she lets another thing come up for people to talk about. FRITZ There is no other thing. That is a lie. EMILE How do you know? FRITZ You know it is a lie. Why don't you kill it? EMILE How can you kill a lie about a woman? FRITZ With the truth. EMILE Meh, what is the truth? FRITZ The truth is that she is a good woman and you are too small, too little, too bad in your mind to know what dot means. EMILE (Following him to C.) Prenez garde. I am a Frenchman. FRITZ Ja, das is just it. You don't know a good woman when you see one. EMILE Good? I said nothing about good or bad. It is you who make her bad. You say she must live like this or like that, or like one little way you think, or she is bad. Bah! What is bad? She is good because she has a great heart, a great nature. She is brave enough to keep this child with her and snap the fingers at the world. She is kind as an angel. She is free. She is not afraid. But she must love because she is too great to live without love. Does that make her bad? Allons donc. Because she does not tell who the lover is, does that make her bad? Bah! It is you who are too small, too little, too bete, too German to understand. Fritz. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can talk with your French talk. You mix up the good and the bad like you mix your black and white paint till you get a dirty something and say it is beautiful. You say, oh yeah, she is a good woman. You damn her with that nasty little shrug of that nasty little shoulder. Emile. What do you? Fritz. You cannot do that with me. You are her friend or you are not her friend. You know that she is what I know she is, and if you don't stop winking and wiggling and smiling, I feel Emile. You will? What will you? It is not to you to tell me what I think of her. You are only jealous. You say there is no other man because you are crazy with the jealous. Eh, if you was the man you would not care what I think. Fritz rushes at Emile. WELLS (springing up from couch and going between them). Drop it, you fools. KIDDIE (bursting into the room and getting behind the hall door). Don't tell her where I am. FRANK (coming in with a rush). Oh, I'm so frightened. Something jumped out at me and ran up the stairs. Where's my Kiddie man to save me? Where is he, I say? Emile. Il n'est pas ici. I do not see him. WELLS Didn't you see him? He went down to meet you. Kiddie and Frank both cautiously peer near edge of the door which is between them until they see each other and Kiddie springs into Frank's arms. FRANK (Catching Kiddie to her and covering his face with kisses.) My Kiddie man! Was I long? I tried so hard not to be late tonight. I must have a bigger hug than that. KIDDIE (with a bear like hug). You was awful scared, wasn't you? FRANK Deed I was, all to pieces. KIDDIE She jumped awful high, Fritz. FRITZ Yah, I told you. FRANK Well, how are you? You're lucky dogs to be so poor that you don't have to work. She smiles at them all with the frank abandon of being one of them. Strong, free, unafraid, with the glowing charm of a woman at the height of her development. Her clothes are simple and not new, but have a certain artistic individuality and style. Emile. Then why do you kill yourself to get rich? FRANK I have to get rich for my Kiddie, don't I? See what you think of that, boy. (Giving him a small package.) FRITZ (Helping Frank off with her coat.) Have you had some dinner? FRANK Yes, I had a bite downtown, but I'm hungry. FRITZ (Putting her cloak on piano.) I will get you something. WELLS No, I'll chase out and get it. Emile I will make you a salad tout de suite. FRANK (Sitting on the couch.) No, no, no. Stay where you are, all of you. I know what I want. It's an apple. Give it to me, Wells. Oh, this is good. Be it ever so high up, there's no place like home. Take off my gloves, will you, Emile? Somebody might poke up the fire a bit. (To Kiddie who is struggling with the toy.) Can't you make it go, old man? Wind it up for him, Fritz. Emile, having taken the gloves off, goes back of couch and takes off her hat. Fritz takes the toy and sits on the floor tailor fashion. Kiddie sits in front of him with his back to audience. There is a long pause. Wells, peeling and slicing the apple, sits on the left arm of couch, holding the slices out to Frank on the end of the knife. What's the matter with you all? Anybody had bad luck? You're a cheerful set. Why don't you talk? Amuse me. What are you good for? You look as cross as sticks, Fritz. Have you had a fight? Emile. Qui? We have had a grand fight. FRANK What about? Emile. About you. FRANK That's good. Who was on my side? Emile. We were all on your side, only in the different way. FRANK What's your way? Kiddie runs to Frank, sitting on her lap. Emile. I say I have the advantage of them all, because I can put you in my pictures as I see you, as I understand you. You're in them all, many women in many moods. Mon Dieu, I have had a wonderful day. I have painted every minute till the light is gone. FRANK You look it. Emile. I have got it today what I want and it is you that I see in this picture. FRITZ (Working with the toy on the floor.) Nobody else will see it. Emile. Oh, not the nose, the ears, the chin, maybe. I am not painting the photograph. I am painting the soul of a woman. FRITZ. How can you paint what you know nothing about? FRANK How's the play, Wells? WELLS I rewrote the great third act to day. May I read it to you in the morning? FRANK Yes. (As Kiddie hugs her.) Aw, Kiddie, between you and the apple I am choking to death. What have you been doing to day, Fritz? FRITZ (Reaching for the toy which has run away from him.) I haf been gifing a $5 violin lesson for $1.50. WELLS Cash? FRITZ Ja. WELLS Then you haven't got any kick coming. FRANK Go and see that thing, Kiddie. Don't you like it? Kiddie goes to sit on the floor again. FRITZ (Winding the toy.) One of his legs is a little longer than he really ought to be. KIDDIE Make him go. FRANK What are you doing in your glad rags, Fritz? You ought not to be sitting on the floor so dressed up. FRITZ I am going to play Lione's accompaniments. She says it is a very fashionable function. FRANK Oh, yes, I remember. Get up and brush yourself off. What is she going to sing? FRITZ (Rising and going to piano.) She is going to sing dis for an encore. WELLS (Putting apple and tray back on table up L. Lione's encores are her long suit. FRANK That's because she always sings Fritzie's songs for them. Fritz plays a tender little German song, singing a strain here and there. WELLS whistles. Frank closes her eyes listening. Sweet, I could tell that was Fritzie's in the moon. Come and listen, Kiddie. Kiddie runs to kneel on couch by Frank with his head on her shoulder. Lione's voice is heard singing the song from the hall. She throws open the hall door on a high note. Wells and Emile applaud her with good natured guying. Lione Brune is a tall woman with rather striking beauty of a bold type, emphasized by her black gown which is very low and long. WELLS Bravo! Bravo! Make your entrance again, my dear, and I'll throw the lights on the door. LIONE I'm on now. You're too late for the cue. FRANK No one will dispute your Italian blood to night, Lione. LIONE (Sweeping down to fire.) Why should they dispute it? WELLS (Imitating her.) Why should they? But they do. EMILE A man say to me the other day, "What is Miss Brune?" and I say, "Can you not see by the look, the voice, the temperament?" and he says to me, "You mean Irish?" LIONE Beast! (Sitting in armchair down L. WELLS Italian extraction. Lione from Lena, Brune from Brown. LIONE That's brilliant dialogue, Wells. Put it in a play. Give me a cigarette, Emile. Emile lights a cigarette for her. Fritz plays again. They all whistle or sing for a moment with comfortable abandon. Clara Oakes opens the door. She is a medium sized woman of about 37 with a generally drab and nondescript appearance, looking thrown into her clothes which are somewhat passe. One refractory lock of hair falls over her face and her hat is on one side of her head. Both of these she constantly tries to adjust. She speaks in a nervous gasping way and is just now very much out of breath.) CLARA Hello, everybody. ALL Hello, Clara. LIONE (Condescendingly.) Ah, cara mia, where have you been all day? CLARA Did you miss me, dearest? LIONE Of course I did. I wanted you to hook my gown. CLARA Oh, I'm so sorry. FRANK Sit down, child. CLARA (Sitting on the edge of the couch by Frank.) I went into Cousin Mabel's and she asked me to stay to dinner. So I did, of course. WELLS Of course. Don't miss any of Cousin Mabel's dinners, Clara. CLARA (Still out of breath.) She sent me home in the motor. FRANK Too bad she didn't send you all the way upstairs in it. CLARA Yes, I ran up 3 flights I was in such a hurry to see you. I have an idea. LIONE Well, sit back and either take your hat off or pin it on straight. CLARA Oh, is it crooked? EMILE It makes the whole room crooked out of drawing. I cannot see anything else. CLARA (Struggling with her hat and hair.) Well, I'm going to give an exhibition. FRITZ (From the piano where he is still playing very softly.) Ach Gott! WELLS What? LIONE Now, Clara, don't be a fool. EMILE. And what are you going to exhibit? FRANK Be quiet. (To Clara.) Go on. Why shouldn't you give an exhibition? I wish to goodness you'd finish that miniature of Kiddie you began about 6 months ago. CLARA I will. I'll get to work at it right away. I'll make it the important picture of the exhibition. FRANK Kiddie can be there and walk up and down in front of it to show how good it is. WELLS I wouldn't run any unnecessary risks, Clara. CLARA You mean thing. FRANK Shut up, Wells. (Throwing a pillow at him.) CLARA You just wait. You just wait, you people. You don't believe in me. You don't think I am in earnest. I'll show you. I'm going to get to work right away. EMILE Oh, you have some orders then? CLARA No, I didn't mean that. But Cousin Mabel says she'll let me do her miniature. LIONE Let you? For nothing? CLARA Well, yes, I don't mind that. WELLS Good Lord! (An uproar from the others.) CLARA Now listen. FRANK Listen. Go on, Clara. CLARA Then if she likes it she'll interest other people. That's what I've always wanted her to do, you know. Because if Cousin Mabel really wanted to she could do anything with her social position. LIONE Your Cousin Mabel and her social position make me sick. Why doesn't she give you an income? CLARA Oh, I couldn't accept that. WELLS You couldn't if you didn't get it. CLARA You don't understand how conservative my people are. LIONE How stingy, you mean. EMILE Why don't you tell them all to go to the devil? CLARA Oh, I couldn't do that. I can't afford to cut loose entirely from my family, though of course they object horribly to my working. LIONE They're a pack of snobs. Why don't they boost you along in society then if they object to this? CLARA Well, I really think if I succeeded they wouldn't mind so much. LIONE No, you bet. They'd all be running after you then. EMILE That is the trouble. You are still hanging to the petticoats of your fashionable world and what do it do for you? Look at me. I am alone in a strange country. I have no influence, no rich friends. I am working for the art, not for the money. FRITZ (Rising, getting pipe from overcoat and going to window.) Dot is a good thing then. EMILE Bah! What is money? WELLS Don't ask me. EMILE Why don't you live for your art and starve for it if it must be? FRITZ Yah! And when you are hungry eat one of your beautiful miniatures. EMILE Art has nothing to do with money. WELLS No, but money has something to do with art. EMILE In America, yes. Oui. That is the truth, the sad truth. You have no art in America and what you have is French. A laugh of tolerance from the others. LIONE I suppose you'll be swelling it, Frank, now that you don't have to make any sacrifices for the sake of your work. FRANK I never have made any for it. LIONE I'd be ashamed to confess it. FRANK Neither have you. None of you have. We're all working for money. We'd be fools if we didn't. LIONE Well, really, I thought you had a few ideals. FRANK Never mind ideals. I've got a little talent and I'm trying to sell it. So are we all, because we haven't got anything else to sell. It's only genius that forgets money. Only the glory of creating that compensates for being hungry. No, no, talent wants 3 meals a day. Genius can live in spite of none. WELLS Well, by God, I guess you're right, Frank. I want to sell and I'm going to hang on. I think I've got a chance. Not because my plays are any good, but because other people's are so damned bad. All laugh and there is a general movement. FRANK (Rising) Come, Kiddie, say good night. KIDDIE Aw. FRANK Not another minute. Past time now. FRITZ Gute Nacht, mein Kind. KIDDIE Gute Nacht. EMILE Bonne nuit, mon petit. Dormez bien. KIDDIE Good night. EMILE Comment? Que dis-tu? Ah, mon Dieu, I will never make you a Frenchman if you do not speak the language. FRITZ Don't speak then, Kiddie. WELLS Good night, old man. I'll have to practice an uppercut for you. KIDDIE I'll do you up again. CLARA (Catching Kiddie as he passes her.) Good night, angel sweetheart. (Kissing him on both cheeks.) KIDDIE (Rubbing his cheek.) Night. FRANK Excuse me 2 minutes, good people. She follows Kiddie out, closing the door. CLARA (after pause). Dear Frank is so devoted to Kiddie. LIONE Yes, isn't she? As devoted as a mother. CLARA Oh, I didn't mean that. That is, I you know what I mean. (She looks from one to the other, much embarrassed. A conscious pause. Oh dear, I'm always saying the wrong thing. You know I just love Frank. I wouldn't criticize her for the world. Of course I do think you have to be very broad minded when you come into this atmosphere. Cousin Mabel says I am getting entirely too liberal, but then she WELLS You're very liberal with your hairpins. They're all over the place. (Giving her two from the floor.) CLARA Oh, thank you, Wells. She also said my hair was too loose and that I was getting just like a bohemian. (Laughing foolishly.) She doesn't like it, but then she doesn't understand, you know. WELLS That's it. She doesn't understand. Cousin Mabel doesn't understand. You tell her it takes more than loose hair to make a bohemian, and you're getting to be an out and outer. CLARA (Rising, laughing again, nervous, but immensely flattered.) Oh no, I'm not. EMILE Oui, oui, I can see it. It is there that something mysterious and elusive the true mark of ze bohemian. CLARA Oh, don't say that. I think I'm just as I always was. WELLS No, Clara, you're not. The change is so subtle that you don't know it yourself. But we feel it, you know. LIONE You want to be careful, Clara. CLARA Why, what do you mean? Oh, dear. FRITZ You better make your hair tight again already. CLARA Well, I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I don't believe it anyway. I'm going. (Running out the hall door.) LIONE (Calling to her.) I'm coming. Clara, get my coat out, will you? WELLS Poor Clara. She'd like to tiptoe through Bohemia, but she's afraid of her petticoats. EMILE She will never be an artist. FRITZ But she makes very nice little pictures already. LIONE (Sneeringly.) Nobody said she didn't. You have charity to burn. FRITZ I would like to give some of it away. LIONE Oh, you mean I am uncharitable. Just because I'm not a fool and can see what's as plain as the nose on your face. WELLS (Dreading Lione's temper.) Well, I must skip. I've got to rewrite a whole play to night. Come on, Emile. (Pulling Emile to the door.) EMILE No, I will not. WELLS Come on, come on. Good night. Hope you make a hit tonight, Lione. (He pulls Emile out, closing the door.) LIONE Pray, what did you mean by that speech? FRITZ You seem to think you know. LIONE I wish you wouldn't imply before other people that you think I'm uncharitable to Frank. I have the greatest charity. I don't care what she's done or is doing or how many lovers she has. All I ask is that she doesn't pose. It's absurd the attitude she takes of being strong minded and independent, and it makes me sick, simply sick to see her fool you and lead you around by the nose. FRITZ Sh! Be careful. LIONE Anybody can see that it's Gaskell. She's flirting with you and fooling you and using you as a blind. FRITZ What if she do love Gaskell? What of it? LIONE What of it? FRITZ That don't mean there is anything wrong or that there is any reason for everybody in this house to talk and whisper and hint. LIONE I don't know whether you are so simple that you don't see or so crazy about her that you lie for her. FRITZ Lie for her? Ah, Lione, why do you do this? Are you out of your head? You are making it all up. LIONE Don't you say that to me. I not only believe what I say but something else. FRITZ What? LIONE Have you ever thought does Kiddie make you think of anyone? FRITZ What do you mean? LIONE I'll tell you some day when I'm sure. FRITZ I don't understand you. (He turns sharply and goes to lower window. She follows him.) LIONE You're a fool, a fool, a fool. I'm only trying to save you. Now you've made me angry, Fritz, and I won't sing well. FRITZ Oh, yes, you will. You are very beautiful tonight. LIONE You only say that to (Lifting her face to him.) Do you really think I am, Fritzie? FRITZ I think it, yah. Und I think it is time to go already. LIONE Come on then. I'll get my coat. FRITZ You get your coat und I come. LIONE You want to see her. Stay with her then. I don't want you to go with me. FRITZ I will come as soon as I LIONE Stay with her. I won't be made a fool of. FRITZ I will come in 10 minutes. LIONE I don't want you. (Rushing out and closing the door with a bang.) FRITZ (Calling) I will come. (Fritz sighs and goes to piano, plays again as Frank enters. She goes quietly to her desk, drawing pen and paper towards her. Fritz goes to stand at L. of desk. She smiles up at him with comfortable affection. FRITZ You are tired tonight, ja? Und? FRANK A little, Fritz. FRITZ Und you must work yet? FRANK I'm going out later. FRITZ Oh no, don't do dat. FRANK Oh, I must. If I get what I'm after tonight, I'll have a fine study. I'm going to have supper with a girl from the East Side. FRITZ I will be back. I will go with you. FRANK Indeed you won't. FRITZ But I don't want you to go alone at night. FRANK Now, Fritzie, if you get fidgety FRITZ Oh, but ze talk, I can't stand it for you. When you go out like this, people don't believe it is for your work. They say you have a lover. They say he writes your books. FRANK Well, that's very flattering. It means that they think they are too good for a woman to do. FRITZ But you see, you make them talk when you do foolish things. FRANK Foolish? You mean going out alone? Good heavens! You don't suppose I'm going to give up all my chances of seeing and knowing and understanding just because a few silly people are talking about me? FRITZ But you are a woman. You must not expect people to trust you too much. FRANK I'm not going to spend my life explaining. FRITZ (Sitting at L. of desk.) No, but you FRANK Oh, Fritz, don't. You've been so nice and so comfortable and now you're beginning to worry. You see how much better it would have been for both of us if I'd never told you anything about myself and about Kiddie. FRITZ Don't say that. You have to talk to somebody sometimes. Don't say you are sorry you told me. That was the most natural thing I have ever seen you do. FRANK Natural? Surely I am nothing but natural. I'm a natural woman because I've been a free one. Living alone with my father all those years made me so. He took me with him every possible place. FRITZ Ah, but he was with you to protect you. FRANK I didn't need much protection. Dad wanted me to see, to know, to touch all kinds of life. And I surely did. He developed all his stories by telling them aloud to me. He used to walk up and down the little library and talk out his characters. So I began to balance men and women very early, and the more I knew, the more I thought the women had the worst of it. FRITZ Something has made you bitter to men. FRANK Kiddie has made me better. Poor little nameless fellow. I shall never forget the night his mother came to us. I didn't know her very well. She was only one of the hundreds of American girls studying in Paris, but she came to me because she wanted to get away from her own set. We kept her and she died when Kiddie was born and then we kept him because we didn't know what else in God's world to do with him. And then we loved him and after father died somehow that poor little helpless baby was the greatest comfort in the world to me. I couldn't bear Paris without dad, so I came back to America. Kiddie was 2 then, and we set up house in this old place 3 years ago, and here we are. And it's nobody's business who he is. I don't know who his father was. I don't care who he was. But my name is better for the boy than his, for mine is honest. FRITZ I think it is a too bad thing to be a woman with a big mind, a big soul. Yeah, I think it. But I am glad you are one already. FRANK Dear old Fritz. FRITZ I only wonder what will be the end. FRANK Kiddie will be the end of everything for me. FRITZ No, he will not. Some day you will love a strong man and he will change it all. FRANK You don't believe me, of course, but it's Kiddie, Kiddie I am living for. Everything I believe about men and women has been so intensified by him that he's become a sort of symbol to me of what women suffer through men, and he's given me a purpose, something to do. FRITZ I think Malcolm Gaskell has cut me out with Kiddie. FRANK Nonsense. Nobody could do that. FRITZ I am not so sure. I think Gaskell can get most anything he want if he try. FRANK Why don't you like him, Fritz? FRITZ He isn't the kind of man that everybody knows all about and can trust the first time you see him. FRANK Yes, he is. That's just what Gaskell is. Whatever his faults may be, at least they're honest. Right out from the shoulder. FRITZ I am not so sure. A pause. Don't be sorry to morrow that you have talked a little to night. It's gut for you. Und don't think I don't understand. Gute Nacht. (Giving her his hand.) FRANK Good night, Fritz. Fritz goes up to table by piano and picks up his violin case and overcoat. There is a knock at hall door. FRANK Open the door. Fritz opens door and Malcolm Gaskell stands in the doorway. He is a tall, powerful looking man about 40. The face is strong and reckless. FRITZ Speaking of the devil, here is the old boy himself. GASKELL Hello, Bahn, you here? Good evening, Miss Ware. FRANK Good evening, Mr. Gaskell. FRITZ Yah, I am here, but I am going. She is very tired and very busy. GASKELL You must have stayed too long. (To Frank) Why didn't you send him away? FRITZ She did. GASKELL That's good. I came to borrow a book. FRANK Help yourself. (Going to table up L. and selecting book he sits carelessly on couch.) Thanks. Fritz still stands by door watching Gaskell. You don't seem to be going. FRITZ No, I'm holding the door open for you. GASKELL I'd rather you'd shut it for me. FRITZ Well, I have done my best. You see he is going to stay. Frank watches both men much amused. Fritz starts to go as Lione appears in doorway. She wears a long coat and is drawing on her gloves petulantly. LIONE Well, really, I thought you were coming for me. FRITZ Yah, I am just coming. LIONE I am not in the habit of going after my escorts. FRITZ Ach, Lione. LIONE It's frightfully late. Of course some people are such sirens. (With a withering glance at Frank.) Oh, Mr. Gaskell too. You're so popular, Frank. FRANK I am with some people. You don't appreciate me, Lione. LIONE At least I understand you. I'm ready, Fritz. (She sweeps out, Fritz following meekly, nodding to Frank as he closes door.) GASKELL You ought to look out for the stiletto under that Italian cloak. I'm sure she's got it ready for you. FRANK Don't laugh. GASKELL (Rising and going C.) Why not? FRANK It isn't a joke, poor girl. GASKELL It is decidedly a joke to see that big tempestuous Lione bow down to the little pink and white Fritz. FRANK You're decidedly off when you call Fritz pink and white. GASKELL He couldn't be that in love you, I suppose. FRANK (Sitting sidewise in the chair at L. of desk.) What did you come for? GASKELL Your book. I want to read it again. You haven't given me a copy. FRANK Why don't you buy one and help the sale? GASKELL I did buy one but I threw it away. It irritated me. FRANK Then you don't need another one. GASKELL No, I don't need it, I admit, but I want it. I want to read it again. I want to see why people are talking about it. FRANK You don't see then? GASKELL I don't see why they say it's so strong. It's clever as the deuce and it's got a lot of you in it, but it isn't big. Our paper gave you a darn good criticism. Did you see it? (Handing her a paper from his pocket.) FRANK (Taking paper and getting scissors from desk she goes to couch.) Yes, I saw it. Much obliged to your paper. GASKELL (Following her.) Your story's all right. A man couldn't have done it any better. Your people are clean cut as a man's. FRANK Oh, thank you. GASKELL (Standing with his back to fire looking down at her.) But it's only a story. You haven't got at the social evil in the real sense. You couldn't tackle that. It's too big for you. You've taken the poverty and the wrongs of the woman on the East Side as an effective background for your story, and you've let your dare devil profligate girl rail against men and the world. She says some darn good things, more or less true, but you don't get at the thing. You keep banging away about woman, woman and what she could do for herself if she would. Why, this is a man's world. Women'll never change anything. FRANK Oh. (Smiling.) GASKELL Man sets the standard for woman. He knows she's better than he is and he demands that she be, and if she isn't she's got to suffer for it. That's the whole business in a nutshell and you know it. FRANK Oh, Don't begin that again. I know your arguments backwards. GASKELL How did you happen to come here anyway? This isn't a good place for you to live. FRANK Why did you? GASKELL Oh, this is all right for a man. FRANK Rather good for me too. The house is filled with independent women who are making their own living. GASKELL And you also have a little court of admirers here, all more or less in love with you, all curious, most of them doubting and all of them gossiping about you to beat the band. Don't you know that? FRANK Let's talk about something else for a change. GASKELL Hang it, somebody's got to tell you. You can't live the way you do and do the things you do without running your head into a noose, just as any other woman would. FRANK I don't know why you take the trouble to say all this. GASKELL I don't know why I do myself, for Lord knows I wouldn't stop you in anything you're trying to do. I like your pluck. I say go on. I understand you. But you needn't think for a moment anybody else does. I don't question you. I take you just as you are. I suppose you think this Dutchman understands you. FRANK He isn't impertinent to say the least. GASKELL No, I suppose not. He wouldn't dare to disagree with you. FRANK Oh, yes, he would. Fritz has a mind of his own and a very strong character. He is a genius beside. If he only had a chance to be heard. I wish you'd do something for him. You know so many people. You've got a lot of influence in that direction. Don't you want to? GASKELL Do you really want me to? FRANK Oh, awfully. He has the real thing. You know he has. Don't you know it? GASKELL Oh, I suppose so. The real thing is fiddling, but that's not much for a man. FRANK He's here without friends, without money. He ought to be heard. GASKELL What do you want me to do? FRANK Talk him up to somebody. He can't do that sort of thing for himself. He's too sensitive and too fine. GASKELL Sensitive and fine be hanged. That won't get him anywhere. FRANK (Rising to go back to desk with the clipping.) I hate you when you say things like that. GASKELL (Catching her hand as she passes him.) Do you hate me? Do you? FRANK Then don't be so GASKELL So what? Don't you think I'm what do you think of me? Tell me. FRANK I think you don't mean half you say. GASKELL Oh, yes, I do, and a good deal more. You don't mean half you say. They're only ideals. FRANK Oh! GASKELL You'll acknowledge it some day when you care for a man. You won't give a hang for anything you ever believed then. FRANK Oh, yes, I will, and I'll care what he believes. GASKELL (Bending close to her.) You'll believe that you've got to live while you are young, and you'll believe that love is the only thing that counts much for a woman. FRANK No, no, no. GASKELL It is. Women are only meant to be loved, and men have got to take care of them. That's the whole business. You'll acknowledge it some day when you do love somebody. FRANK It would only make me feel more than ever the responsibility of love of life. (She moves back from him, looking at him while she speaks.) GASKELL (After a pause.) Come out after a while and have a bite of supper with me, will you? FRANK Oh, couldn't possibly. (Sitting at her desk and drawing a manuscript towards her.) GASKELL Please. FRANK No, really I can't. I have to work. GASKELL Well, get to work and I'll come back for you any time you say. FRANK Can't. I'm going out at 12 anyway. GASKELL Oh, that's different if you're going out to supper anyway. FRANK I'm going to have supper with a girl from the East Side. GASKELL Why in the name of heaven are you going at 12 o'clock? FRANK She's going to bring her sweetheart for me to see and he can't get off any other time. GASKELL I'll go with you. FRANK No, you GASKELL Yes, I will. FRANK Indeed you won't. I want them to be natural and talk. She's had a tragic story and this fellow knows all about it and is going to marry her. She's helping me a lot in my club for girls over there. She can get at them because she's been through it all and has come out a fine decent woman. GASKELL I can't see for the life of me why you go banging around over there, wasting your time getting into all sorts of disagreeable things. What's the use? FRANK What's the use? I call it some use to get hold of about a dozen girls a year and make them want to lead decent lives. GASKELL (After a pause.) Are you going to let your Fritz go with you? FRANK Of course not. GASKELL Thought perhaps you would. He makes a pretty good watch dog trotting around after you, doesn't he? FRANK He makes a pretty good friend. (Rising.) You must skip now. I've got to get to work. GASKELL I don't want to go. FRANK Come on. (They walk together to door. GASKELL (Standing in the open door.) You're awfully hard on me. FRANK Poor you. GASKELL That's right. You don't know how nice I could be if you didn't fight with me. FRANK You always begin it. GASKELL Will you come to dinner to morrow night and see a show? Will you? Will you? (After a pause she nods smilingly.) Good. (Taking her hand.) And we won't fight. (She shakes her head.) Not a bit? FRANK (Drawing her hand away.) Not a bit. GASKELL If you were only as kind to me as you are to everybody else, I'd be FRANK You wouldn't like me at all. GASKELL Try it. FRANK I couldn't. Nobody could get on with you without fighting. GASKELL Oh, don't say that. FRANK It's the truth. You're a headstrong, domineering GASKELL Just because I don't crawl at your feet the way the other fellows do. Do you hate me? FRANK You said that before. Skip now. Good night. GASKELL (Taking book out of pocket.) Are you going to give me this? FRANK I said no. GASKELL But I've got it. FRANK (Putting her hand on the book.) But I haven't given it to you. GASKELL You'll never give me anything. I'll have to fight for it. (He snatches her hand and kisses her wrist and arm and goes out, closing the door. Hesitating, she puts her hand over the arm where he kissed it and puts her arm on the door, hiding her face in it.) Curtain. End of Act I. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act II of A Man's World, a play in 4 acts by Rachel Crothers. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act II. Scene: a room in the same house occupied by Clara and Lione. Long double windows at back. A single door at left leading into hall, a single door at right opening into a closet. An old fashioned fireplace below closet at right. Down right below the fireplace a large hassock. Before upper end of fireplace a large armchair. To the right of windows at back a couch bed covered with a dark cover and holding 2 pillows. Before the windows are 2 screens for holding pictures. They have only a single panel and stand on spreading feet and are made of a plain wood and brown canvas. To the left of windows is a washstand with bowl, pitcher, etc. of flowered china. Above the door at left is a bureau crowded with toilet articles, a small china bowl, a few books, cigarettes, matches, etc. Half hiding the bureau and washstand is a large screen of 4 leaves. Below the screen an upright piano and at left center a good sized round table with a chair between it and the piano. A chair to right of table and one below it to the left. At left below the door is another couch bed covered with a dark cover and holding several pillows. On the table C. are a brass tea service and a dozen teacups and saucers of various kinds and a white lace cover. On the piano are piles of music and a small clock. The mantel holds a brass candlestick, a few ornaments and a great many photographs. The furniture is old fashioned, heavy black walnut. The walls are covered with a dull faded paper which is badly torn above the couch at right. There are a few effective pictures, water colors, prints, etc. on the walls. Time 4 weeks later, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At curtain, Lione, with the front of her skirt turned up and a towel pinned over it as an apron, is sitting on the couch down left, polishing a brass candlestick with a flannel rag. Clara wears a skirt and shirtwaist which do not meet in the back, and a much besmeared painting apron. The same lock of hair of Act I is constantly falling over her face and she mechanically pushes it back. CLARA Going to take a work basket from the table to put it on bureau at left. Oh dear, I hope it pays for all the trouble. Cousin Mabel may have one of her headaches at the last minute and not come at all. She's really awfully pleased with her miniature. It flatters her horribly. I do want to be honest and true in my work, but what are you going to do? No woman will accept a miniature unless it does flatter her. LIONE I hope to goodness somebody gives you an order after this affair. I'm ruining my hands cleaning these things. CLARA Don't do them well. We'll never be ready by 4 o'clock. It's 2 now. (Taking hat from armchair and dropping on her knees before the couch upright. She draws a hat box from under the bed and puts the hat in it.) LIONE If your cousin doesn't come I'd never speak to her again in all my life if I were you. CLARA (Getting flat on the floor to reach a dress box under the bed.) Oh, pooh. She wouldn't care whether I did or not. LIONE Your cousin Mabel's a damned snob, that's what she is. CLARA (Taking a shabby afternoon gown from the box.) Oh, she doesn't mean to be. She's just like everybody else in her world. (Examining the gown.) LIONE I hate 'em. Ignorant, idle, society women, that's all they are. CLARA You'd give your ears to be one though. LIONE (Rising and leaving candles on couch as she goes to look at herself at bureau.) I wouldn't. I wouldn't give up my career for anything on earth. CLARA Yes, that's what I used to think. But somehow I'm not so keen about my Goodness! This is mussed and shabby. Absolutely the only rag I've got to wear. Hanging the gown on the chandelier below the fireplace, she pushes the box back and arranges the cover on couch. Oh, I must get the rest of the miniatures up. Here's Kiddie's picture. Where's the best place to put this? LIONE I think Frank's got an awful nerve to let you display it at all. CLARA Why? LIONE Why? Because people will ask who he is. CLARA Oh, well, I'll just say he's a little boy that Frank Ware adopted. LIONE (Going to put a candlestick on mantel.) Yes, that sounds well. CLARA Well, it's plausible. (Putting the miniature on the screen and standing back to see how it looks.) LIONE Not to me. The men say she isn't in love with Gaskell. Why, she is, head over heels, and sometimes I think CLARA What? LIONE Sometimes I think (Going to Clara) he is Kiddie's father. CLARA What? Oh, horrible, Lione. She never saw Gaskell till she came here. LIONE Yes, so they say. Let me see Kiddie's picture. Frank used to live in Paris and so did Gaskell. CLARA Oh, goodness! I never dreamed of such a thing. LIONE (Going to sit at right of table and looking closely at miniature.) Several times I've thought CLARA You'd better keep on working. The tea table isn't ready at all. I hope to goodness nobody looks behind the screen. LIONE (Starting as she looks at picture.) It isn't imagination. I do see it as true as I live. CLARA What's the matter? LIONE Look! Come here. FRITZ (Calling as he knocks.) Can I come in? CLARA Yes, come. Fritz enters carrying a screen like the others. He is in his shirt sleeves. Oh, you angel. Put it over there. The screens are perfectly splendid. I'm so grateful. Really I am. You're so clever to have made them. I never could have afforded to have them if you hadn't. FRITZ (Putting screen near the others.) I like to do it. CLARA You're a genius, Fritz. FRITZ Yah, but I am too many kinds of a one. Dat iss my trouble. CLARA (As they adjust the screens.) You ought to stick to your violin. That's where your genius is. FRITZ Yah, but the great American public doesn't seem to know it. CLARA Yes, I know, I know. Isn't it awful? I hope to goodness somebody gives me at least one order from this exhibition. FRITZ Oh, yah, you get some. CLARA I wish I were as cheerful as you are. Did you ask Emile if I could have his tapestry for this afternoon? FRITZ Ach du lieber, you ask him. He will not give it to me. Dot tapestry is de apple core of his eye. CLARA I'm going to ask him now. It won't hurt it a bit and I want it awfully to put above that couch over there to hide the hole in the paper. (She goes out.) FRITZ (Going to look over Lione's shoulder.) What are you looking at? LIONE (Hiding the miniature.) Nothing. FRITZ Let me see. LIONE I've just decided something. Something I've halfway believed for a long time. FRITZ Was ist dat? LIONE I don't know that I'll tell you. FRITZ: Please. LIONE: I found out something and you'll pretend not to see it. FRITZ: How do you know that unless you tell me what it is? LIONE: Because I know you. FRITZ: Tell me, please, please. You have very pretty eyes. LIONE: Had you forgotten that? FRITZ: No. LIONE: It's the last woman who comes along with you, Fritz. FRITZ: Every woman keeps her own place in a man's heart. LIONE: What I don't understand about you is how can you let a woman flirt with you when you know she is crazy about another man? FRITZ: You mean Frank? She does not flirt with me. She is a friend. LIONE: Will you admit that she's in love with Gaskell? FRITZ: She don't want to love any man. LIONE: Oh, is that what she tells you? FRITZ: No, no. She tells me nothing. That is what I think. LIONE: You do? Well, you're about as wise as a kitten. I know she's in love with Gaskell and I think she always has been. That is long before she came here. FRITZ: Ach, why? Why you think that? She never know him. LIONE (Lifting the miniature.) Whom does Kiddie look like? FRITZ: Was do you mean? LIONE Look. FRITZ: No, no, I will not look. LIONE (Catching his arm.) Why won't you look? Are you afraid to? FRITZ: No, no, I am not afraid. Why should I be? LIONE Why are you so excited? FRITZ: I am not excited. LIONE You are. Oh, you see the resemblance too, don't you? FRITZ: What resemblance? I don't know what you are talking about. LIONE Don't you? Who is he like through the eyes? FRITZ: Who? He is himself. LIONE (Holding the picture before him.) It's Malcolm Gaskell. FRITZ (Closing his eyes.) Ach Gott, was do you mean? LIONE You know what it means. Frank came here alone with this child. There is a mystery about her. Then Gaskell comes, they're in love with each other and pretend not to be. I'll bet you anything you like Gaskell is this boy's father. FRITZ: You have made it all up. LIONE You either know it's the truth or you're afraid it is. I'll tell her that I know. FRITZ: No. LIONE I will. There's no reason why I shouldn't and there's every reason why I should. FRITZ: Listen to me. If you will promise to keep still, if you will promise to say nothing to anybody about it, I will tell you what I think. LIONE (Looking at him keenly.) What's that? FRITZ: Frank has told us he is the child of a woman who died. LIONE Yes, but who is the father? FRITZ: She don't know who der vater was, but when Gaskell first came here I see dis resemblance and I believe he is de boy's vater. Maybe he don't know it, maybe he do, but Frank don't know it. I am as sure of that as I am standing here. LIONE Fritz, you must think I'm an awful fool. Of all the cock and bull stories I ever heard, that's the worst. FRITZ: It might be, it might be. Dis is a strange und funny old world. LIONE But it isn't as funny as that. Oh, Fritz, I want to save you from this woman, from her influence. FRITZ: Sie is the best influence dot ever came into my life. LIONE What's going to come of it? FRITZ: Nothing. LIONE You love her? FRITZ: You are two women, Lione. You and I used to have such good times together. I love your voice, Lione. You have something great in it. I like to play for you when you sing. You are so jolly and so sweet when you are nice. Why can't it always be so? Why can't we always be friends? Lione She's changed everything. She's spoiled everything. She's ruining your life and I'm trying to save you. FRITZ: No, Lione, you don't. LIONE I've wasted my friendship on you. Wasted it. Wasted it. CLARA (Opening the door.) Yes, yes. If I get an order from this exhibition I'll blow you all to a supper. Emile follows. He is in his blouse and carries a large tapestry over his shoulder. Wells comes next carrying a quantity of curious daggers, foils, Indian weapons, etc. EMILE Where will you have it? CLARA There, over there. (Pointing above couch up R. Put that stuff on the armchair, Wells, till we put it up. I'm so much obliged. Wells, striding across the room, with the tapestry dragging, he stops C. and recites elaborately. Clara, I've composed an ode to the occasion. Ahem. Clara's giving a show. She makes miniatures, you know. She gives you cake, she gives you tea. She's polite as she can be. But don't just eat her cake and tea. She would like some cash, you see. Don't just say, how charming, dear. Oh, how quaint and sweet and queer. But let her paint your pretty faces with a rosebud and the laces. Then the checks that you have sent will pay our Clara's board and rent. The others laugh and applaud. Wells, suddenly seeing Clara's gown hanging below fireplace and springing back. Great heavens! Is that your astral body? CLARA No, it's my last year's body. EMILE Where did you say to put this? CLARA (going to couch right over this. It will cover the whole. EMILE Mais Mon Dieu, the tapestry will not show. It belonged to Napoleon. WELLS (holding out Indian hatchet). This belonged to George Washington. CLARA Get up there, Emile. You take the other end, Wells, and I'll get you some tacks. WELLS (as he and Emile get on couch). Where are you going to put the weapons of warfare? CLARA (going to bureau and taking tacks out of china bowl). Right over the tapestry. EMILE Sacre! You are not going to put the relics of your sauvage with the tapestry and Napoleon? CLARA (with tacks in her mouth). Why not? It will be effective and nobody will notice whether they really go together or not. EMILE That is the American. You mix your art until nobody knows what you mean. CLARA I don't want it to mean anything. I want it to cover the whole. Here (holding up shabby slipper and tacks). EMILE (taking slipper). What is this for? CLARA To pound with, of course. WELLS You wouldn't expect that artistic temperament to have a hammer, would you? Go on. Hold up your end and fire away, Napoleon. Don't stop for details. Emile and Wells begin to hang the tapestry. Lione has sat on the floor by the couch, down L. and taking a box from under it gets out teaspoons which she rubs with a towel. CLARA That isn't right. Lift your end. FRANK (coming in carrying a large bunch of roses in a paper. She is wearing a very charming afternoon gown and hat. Hello, everybody. All except Lione. Hello. Hello, Frank. Frank, how are you getting on? Oh, how nice you're going to look. CLARA And how nice you look. FRANK I bought these for your tea table. CLARA You darling! Just what I wanted, but how awfully extravagant. FRANK Not extravagant at all. Marked down on the corner. Not warranted to last over night, but I think they'll get through the afternoon. Have you got anything to put them in? CLARA Nothing high enough. FRANK Get the tall vase out of my room, will you, Fritz? And isn't there anything else you want? LIONE We have everything we want, thank you. FRANK You're lucky. Here's the key, Fritz. Will you get the vase? FRITZ Ja, I get it. (Going out with the key. CLARA moving the large screen so the bureau and washstand are hidden.) You'll sit here, Frank, when you serve the tea. FRANK (Squeezing into the chair between the table and piano.) Give me room enough to get in. CLARA Oh, well, you can get in before the people come. Now, Emile, listen. You said you'd help Frank with the tea. When you take the cups away, don't move the screen whatever you do. Just hand them around like this. See? EMILE Bien. CLARA And Mrs. Grumper will be behind the screen washing. WELLS What? CLARA Washing cups, you goose. WELLS Oh. CLARA And all you have to do, Emile WELLS All you have to do is to whisper one wash. FRANK What are you going to have? Just tea? CLARA Heavens, yes. Don't you think it's enough? FRANK Oh, of course. I only wanted to know. WELLS Nothing else on the side? CLARA Oh, I wouldn't dare. Cousin Mabel would say there was drinking and carousing going on. WELLS Give Cousin Mabel a drink or two and she might pay for her picture. FRANK Kiddie's quite excited about his picture being displayed. (Lione looks up at Frank quickly and watches her a moment. He said this morning, "Don't you think I ought to be there and see if they could guess who it is?" CLARA Bless his heart. WELLS Yes, you might make it a guessing party, Clara. LIONE To guess who Kiddie is, you mean? (There is a slight pause as they all look from Lione to Frank.) WELLS I meant to guess which is Kiddie's picture. FRANK We might all guess now what Lione means. A pause. Lione rises, puts spoons on table, looks at Frank and goes up to window. FRITZ enters with medium sized glass vase. Here you are. FRANK No, you aren't. That isn't it at all. I meant the tall one. FRITZ Ach du lieber, this is all I see. FRANK (Rising.) I'll get it. FRITZ No, I'll go back. I am sorry. FRANK I'd rather go, thank you. I want to get something else. Oh, Clara, don't you want some more pillows and rugs and things? CLARA I just love them. FRANK And are you going to wear that? (Pointing to the gown hanging on the chandelier.) CLARA Yes, it's all I've got. FRANK Don't you think it would be rather pretty with that little lace jacket of mine over it? CLARA Oh, heavenly. May I? FRANK Of course. (Clara pushes her lock of hair back.) And I wish you'd let me do your hair. I'd love to try it a different way. CLARA You're an angel. I wish you would. I don't seem to be able to make it stay up. It drives Cousin Mabel crazy. Wells says it's temperament, you know. (Giggling.) FRANK Well, let's see if we can't hold your temperament in a little. CLARA You're awfully good, Frank. Really you are. FRANK Nonsense. Fritz, will you come and help me bring some things? Fritz! FRITZ Ja. FRANK Will you come and help me bring some things? FRITZ Oh, yeah, I come. (He goes out with Frank closing the door.) CLARA Frank's a dear. She's got the biggest heart. EMILE I do not think Frank tinks her heart is quite big enough. He would like to get in. WELLS (Kicking Emile and looking at Lione.) You don't know anything about her heart. CLARA I wish I did. I think it would be awfully interesting to know whether she really cares for Gaskell or not. WELLS Give us more bric a brac, Clara, if you want it all up. CLARA Oh, yes, use it all. (Giving Wells another weapon from chair.) EMILE I tell you she loves somebody. That is her charm, her mystery. She could not be what she is without love. WELLS She's a mystery to me all right, all right. CLARA She certainly is to me. LIONE She certainly is not to me. Look here, all of you. (Holding out the picture.) Whom does Kiddie look like? CLARA Oh, gracious! What do you mean? LIONE Simply what I say. Whom does he look like? EMILE You mean like Frank? LIONE No, no, not like Frank. Look now through the eyes. CLARA I don't see it. And I ought to if anybody does. I painted it. What do you mean, Lione? Anybody we know? WELLS You couldn't very well see a resemblance to anybody you didn't know. CLARA Well, dear me, I don't see. Through the eyes? Oh, heavens! Yes, I do. LIONE You see it. Wait, don't say anything. WELLS Oh, you can imagine anything. LIONE You can't imagine anything as strong as that. CLARA Yes, I actually EMILE Ah, Mon Dieu, I see what you mean. It is Gaskell. WELLS What? EMILE Ah, c'est extraordinaire. LIONE (Looking triumphantly at Wells.) We all see it. WELLS Rot, rot, nothing of the sort. I don't see the slightest LIONE We see it all of us. CLARA I think I do. I did. It sort of comes and goes. WELLS Especially goes. I don't see it. LIONE You're blind. Look, it's Gaskell. That child looks like Malcolm Gaskell and anybody can see it unless they don't want to. EMILE Mais oui, I see it. It is here the eyes for you, Clara. It is wonderful. You have caught the trick with the eyes. LIONE Of course it's there. CLARA Oh my, I think it's awful. What do you mean, Lione? I don't know what you mean. WELLS Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. LIONE Oh no. Nobody means anything. Nobody knows anything. Nobody says anything. But you all think what I do and you haven't got the courage to say so. I know you have. I believe in saying what you think and not pretending to be fooled. WELLS Well now, what of it? What if what you imply is true? What of it? What's the good of digging it up? CLARA Oh dear, I don't believe it at all. EMILE I tell you all the time you are foolish as babies not to understand. WELLS Oh yes, you understand a lot, you do. I say, what's the use of talking about it? Let it alone. LIONE Oh, very well. If that's the sort of thing you accept and believe in, that's your affair. But I don't propose to help a woman of that sort keep up appearances by pretending that I don't see what's right under my nose. CLARA Oh dear, I never was in anything like this before. I think you have to have strict ideas even if you are broad minded. I do think oh dear, I don't know what to think. EMILE You amuse me all. You pretend to live in ze world of art and freedom and yet you make ze grand fight about what? What are you talking about? What do you expect, you funny Americans? She is a great woman. She must live and love and LIONE You needn't say that to me. I don't (Frank knocks and opens the door. Lione puts the miniature back in her blouse. Frank has taken off her hat and coat. She carries a sofa pillow under each arm and the lace coat. She has also the vase and the two framed pictures in silver frames in her hands. Fritz follows with 4 pillows and a rug. FRANK We met old Grumper in the hall and she thought the house was on fire. An uncomfortable pause. You don't seem to think that is funny. Putting vase on table and throwing the 2 pillows onto the couch L. She hangs the coat over screen. This is the vase I meant. Fritz goes behind piano and filling vase from pitcher puts it on table and remains up C. WELLS Come on, girls, your lunch is ready. Sorry we didn't know you'd be home, Frank. We've only got enough for 4. FRANK That's all right. I've had my luncheon. LIONE Come on, Clara. CLARA You don't mind my going, do you, Frank? FRANK Of course not. I'll do the flowers for you. WELLS We've only got salad and cheese. Thought the girls wouldn't have time to go out today, so we're setting them up. FRANK How nice of you. EMILE (to Frank) You are an angel. Je vous adore. CLARA I hate to go and leave you, but LIONE Come on, Clara. Don't keep everybody waiting. (Lione goes out. WELLS (Catching Clara by left hand and pulling her to door.) On, Clara, on to the feast. On, Clara, let us be mad and gay while life is fleeting. (Exit Wells, Emile and Clara laughing.) FRANK Weren't you invited to the party? FRITZ Nein, no, I was not invited. FRANK Put the pillows on the other couch. I do hope this affair does Clara some good. The screens are splendid. Where's Kiddie's picture? Do you know? FRITZ No, I don't know. FRANK (Going to look on the screens.) I don't see it. FRITZ Oh, I think she has not yet hung them all. FRANK It looks as if she had. I don't see it. Funny. Is it on that one? FRITZ Nein. FRANK Here's a vacant space. Maybe she's taken it down. I wonder where it is. Oh! FRITZ What is it? FRANK I just thought of something. FRITZ What is that you think of? FRANK I thought maybe Lione took it down. I have a sort of feeling about the miniature from something she said just now. Fritz, tell me honestly, do they talk about it much? Do they? Oh, they do. FRITZ Frankie, I want you to do something. You must tell them more about Kiddie. FRANK No, Fritz, do you doubt what I've told you about him? FRITZ If I do not believe you, I believe nothing in the world. But FRANK But what? FRITZ But you see you have given me your confidence. You have only tell a little to them, just enough to make them doubt, and it hurts you. FRANK All I want to do is to keep still and help Kiddie make his life clean and honest and let the world judge him by himself. I don't see anything foolish in that. FRITZ That's all very well for him, but you must think of yourself too, your reputation. FRANK Now see here, Fritz, I care just as much about my reputation as any woman in the world, but this talk is only idle gossip and curiosity, and I'm not going to let that force me to do a thing that I know isn't right. FRITZ Then I ask you something else. Tell Lione. FRANK No. FRITZ You think I'm crazy, but I tell you, if you make Lione your friend, if you make her understand you, she will kill all the talk. She will be a help. You need a woman on your side, and if once you get Lione, she fight for you, and she wipe up the floor mit everybody else. FRANK I don't want to buy her friendship. FRITZ No, no, it would not be that. I tell you she need you too. She need a good woman friend. Lione has a big heart if it just get hold ze right thing. She fight you now, but it is only like a big child that don't know how to control its badness. If you just get her once, you could make her love you if you try. But first she has got to believe you. FRANK You're a funny dear old boy, Fritz. I'm just as much to blame as Lione when we scrap. FRITZ. Will you do it? Will you tell her? Will you? FRANK. Yes, I will. FRITZ. Ah, I am so glad. There is a knock at the hall door. FRANK. Yes, come in. GASKELL Opening door wearing his hat and coat. Hello. Looking jealously from one to the other. FRANK (moving toward Gaskell). Oh, hello. What are you doing here this time of day? Did you come to the exhibition? You're rather early. It doesn't begin till 4 o'clock. GASKELL Oh, is this the day for the show? No, I went to your room, Bahn, and I went to yours (to Frank). There's a concert on for this afternoon, and the young violinist who was booked to play is laid up. Fell and broke his arm this morning. The manager, Holbrook, is a friend of mine, and called me up because I had spoken to him about you (nodding to Fritz). FRANK Oh. GASKELL Will you go on? Will you play? Chance of your life. Crackerjack audience. FRANK Oh, your chance has come at last, Fritz. It's too splendid I could cry. It's too splendid. You'll play the concerto and then you must play your own slumber song. It's too splendid. I can't believe it. (Turning to Gaskell.) Think what it means to him. Oh, Fritz, I'm so glad. I'm so What will you play, Fritz? FRITZ I cannot play. FRANK What? FRITZ I cannot play. FRANK What do you mean? FRITZ That is what I mean. I cannot play. FRANK Have you gone mad? It's the chance of your life, as Mr. Gaskell says. Are you fooling? Here's the opportunity in your hand. Are you going to take it? FRITZ We cannot always take what comes. (Looks at Gaskell.) I cannot take this. (He goes out closing the door. Frank and Gaskell stare at the door for an instant.) FRANK I don't understand. GASKELL Impudent, pig-headed, irresponsible set, every one of them. How do they expect to get along if they don't take a chance when you hand it out to them? Bohemians, geniuses, damn fools, I say. FRANK Oh, Fritz isn't like that. There's something else, some reason. What was the matter with him? Something came over him. I don't GASKELL Why, it's me. That's what's the matter with him. He won't take it from me because he's so jealous of you he's crazy. If I'd known he was such a fool I'd have had them sent to him direct, so he wouldn't have known I had anything to do with it. That would have pleased you. But I thought the safest and quickest way to get him was to come and find him myself. Sorry I balled it up. Your friend's so fine and sensitive I don't know how to handle him. FRANK Don't be unjust to Fritz just because you've lost your temper. I must say I don't blame you for that. He did seem awfully rude and ungrateful, but I know he didn't mean it. He GASKELL Mean it? Good Lord, what did he mean then? FRANK That's just what I don't know. GASKELL You're trying to find another reason for what's just plain ordinary jealousy. Do you want me to keep out of his way? FRANK Don't be ridiculous. GASKELL (Taking both her hands.) Do you want me to clear out and let you alone? FRANK (Trying to draw her hands away.) This has nothing to do with the case. GASKELL Yes, it has. Everything to do with it. He doesn't make any more difference to me than a mosquito, but if you Good God, I love you and you know it. He catches her to him and kisses her, then slowly lets her go. She puts her hands over her face and turns away. GASKELL You've kept me outside. I know he knows the whole business, whatever it is. You've shut me out. But I know you're making a mistake by making a mystery of your life. FRANK You mean I ought to tell about Kiddie? Explain and prove every bit of my life? GASKELL I don't put it that way. I mean everything ought to be open understood. FRANK I thought you said you accepted me just as you see me here, just as you accept a man. GASKELL In the beginning I thought I did. But when a man loves a woman the whole world changes to him. He wants to protect her. He wants to understand her. He wants to look into her eyes and see the truth. FRANK You're afraid of what you might see in mine. GASKELL Tell me whatever it is. FRANK Why should I? GASKELL Frank, don't fool with me. I love you. That's why I ask. That's why I care. I want to understand you. Why won't you tell me? Have you told this other man? FRANK He never asked me. GASKELL Do you love him? Are you going to marry him? Are you? You've got to tell me that. Are you going to marry him? FRANK No. GASKELL Then I'm going to make you love me. I love you. I love you, I tell you. This child is the most important thing in your life. I ask you to tell me what he is to you. FRANK How dare you say that to me? GASKELL Because I love you. That gives me the right. FRANK What if I said to you I love you but I don't believe you? You must prove to me that everything in your life has been just what I think it ought to be. GASKELL I'm a man. You're a woman. I love you. I have the right to know your life. FRANK You mean if Kiddie were my own child you couldn't ask me to marry you? GASKELL Is he? FRANK And if he were, can't a woman live through that and be the better for it? How dare a man question her? How dare he? GASKELL Do you mean (Lione throws open the door and stops in supercilious surprise.) LIONE Oh, I beg your pardon. I didn't know Mr. Gaskell was here. I should have knocked. GASKELL It's always a pretty good idea to knock, don't you think? LIONE Oh, I don't know. I'm such an open, frank sort of a person that somehow it never occurs to me that I ought to knock at the door of my own room. (Emile, Wells and Clara follow her in.) FRANK There are some people who think all doors ought to be open, always, even to the innermost rooms of one's soul, so that all the curious world may walk in and look about and see if he approves of what he finds there. LIONE Do you mean I am one of those? FRANK You know whether you are or not. LIONE If you mean I am curious about you, you're mistaken. I'm not curious and I am not deceived. FRANK Deceived? LIONE No. The real situation is too apparent for me to pretend not to see it. FRANK You'll have to speak plainer than that. LIONE Do you really want to discuss it here? FRANK I do. LIONE Well, really, if you insist. A certain resemblance in Kiddie's miniature attracted my attention. We all see it. WELLS I object, Lione. EMILE If you please. CLARA How can you, Lione? FRANK Where is Kiddie's miniature? I couldn't find it. CLARA It must be there. FRANK No, it isn't. CLARA Why I LIONE (Holding it out to Frank.) Here it is. FRANK A certain resemblance, you say? (Fritz comes into the open door. LIONE (Looking at Fritz.) We all see it. FRITZ (Stepping forward.) You have broken your promise. LIONE No. I promised if you told the truth, but you told me an absurd thing. Fritz saw it too, but he has a different explanation of course. FRITZ (Looking at Frank in agony of appeal.) No, don't. GASKELL What do you all mean? What resemblance are you talking about? Confound your impertinence! What do you mean? LIONE I'll tell you. FRITZ No, you will not. LIONE I will. Why shouldn't I? I will. FRITZ No, I say you will not. GASKELL Tell it, say it. What do you mean? LIONE I mean FRANK You needn't. They mean that Kiddie looks like me. A pause. They stare at Frank as she walks out quietly. Curtain. End of Act 2. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act 3 of A Man's World, a play in 4 acts by Rachel Crothers. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act 3. Time 6 hours later, 8 o'clock the same evening. Place same as Act 1. Chandelier and both lamps are lighted, shades are drawn in windows. At curtain, Frank wearing a house gown of striking simplicity is seated by table sewing. Kiddie on the couch is reading aloud. Kiddie reading. And Fido runs and gets the ball from the water and takes it to his master Frank master Kiddie master and Willie takes it to his father Frank you know that. Kiddie No, I don't. Frank Look at it again. Kiddie fatter. Frank No, no. Kiddie Fath Father. FRANK Of course. KIDDIE What's my father? FRANK Why do you ask that? KIDDIE Cause today at school two boys were talking about their fathers and one said his was a lawyer and one of them said his was a barber. FRANK A barber? KIDDIE Or a banker, I don't remember. FRANK Oh. KIDDIE And they asked me what mine was. What is he? FRANK (Going to sit beside Kiddie). He went away a long time ago. You don't want him. Aren't I a good father? Don't I give you all you need? KIDDIE Maybe I don't need one, but I'd like. FRANK Like what? KIDDIE Oh, I'd just like to see him sittin' round. FRANK I love you as much as if I were your father and mother and sisters and brothers and uncles and aunts. You have to be all those to me too, you know, because I haven't any. We must tell each other everything and keep close and think all the time of how we can make each other happy. Mustn't we? KIDDIE If you want to make me happy, why didn't you take me to see my picture this afternoon? That made me very unhappy. FRANK It made me unhappy too, but I really couldn't take you, dearie. Something happened. I really couldn't take you. I'm so sorry. KIDDIE But it's just downstairs. I could have gone by myself. (Looking at her closely.) Have you been crying? FRANK No, no. Are my eyes red? KIDDIE Your nose is. FRANK Do you love me? KIDDIE You bet. FRANK How much? KIDDIE As much as (Stretching his arms out full length.) There is a knock at door. FRANK Oh. You open the door, Kiddie. Kiddie marches to the door and opens it wide. Gaskell stands in the doorway. KIDDIE Goodie, it's Mr. Gaskell. GASKELL May I come in? FRANK I don't GASKELL I'm coming. I want to talk to you. KIDDIE Don't you want me to hear it? GASKELL Well, to be very honest, I would like to talk to just Miss Ware, if you don't mind. KIDDIE I've got to pick up my paints I left all over the floor, then I'll be back. He goes out left, closing the door. GASKELL I've been thinking since this afternoon. I was a cad. At least that's what I seemed to you. I don't know what those other duffers were driving at. Oh, I do know in a way, but all I mean is that I love you and ask for your confidence. FRANK I'm not angry now, but I was then, so horribly angry and hurt. I could tell you who his mother was and prove it in 100 ways, but don't ask me to do that. Oh, Malcolm, you must believe me, just me. Look at me. I give you the one love of my life. GASKELL (Catching her in his arms.) Frank! FRANK I love you. I love you. GASKELL My darling, it was hell to doubt you, but I couldn't help it, dear. It was only because I love you so, because I want you to be the most perfect woman in the world. Do you understand? FRANK And don't you see why I wanted you, of all people in the world, to trust me in every way? Don't you understand? GASKELL No, not quite. (Sitting beside her.) When will you marry me? FRANK Oh, I don't know. GASKELL I want to take care of you. You need it as much as any woman does. Do you love me? FRANK I've tried not to. GASKELL Don't say that. Why? FRANK I haven't wanted to love anybody and when I knew I was beginning to care I didn't want to. GASKELL When did you know you cared? FRANK Oh, when I began to fight with you. You made me so awfully angry and then I was always wretched until we made up. I began to know your step in the hall and when you opened the door and stood there I knew something strong and sweet, something stronger than myself was coming in. GASKELL I'm a beast in lots of ways and stubborn as a mule, but I can take care of you and I'll be good to you. FRANK When did you first know you cared? GASKELL From the first minute I saw you. FRANK Oh, every man says that. You know that isn't true. I wouldn't want it to be. I'll tell you when I first knew you cared. GASKELL When? FRANK Do you remember that day? It was Sunday evening about 3 months ago. You were here and Fritz came in with some roses for me and you didn't look at me for the rest of the evening. You talked to Clara every minute. GASKELL Oh, come, I wasn't quite such an ass as that. FRANK You were. You were just as silly as you could be and perfectly adorable. When you'd gone I GASKELL You what? FRANK I won't tell you. GASKELL Oh, please tell me. FRANK No. GASKELL Oh, please, what did you do when I'd gone?
FRANK I won't tell. GASKELL I don't believe you love me at all. Do you? FRANK You haven't the faintest idea how much. GASKELL Well, tell me. Tell me how much. FRANK I never can. You don't know what it means for a woman to love only one man in all her life. GASKELL Oh, now, Frank. FRANK It's true. You're the one man, Malcolm. That's why I've tried to resist it, because it means so terribly much to me. My life has been filled with other things you know, with Kiddie and my work. They absorbed me and satisfied me. And when love began to crowd in, to overpower me, I was afraid. It seemed almost like being a traitor to myself. Oh, it means such an overwhelming thing for a woman to give up to love after she's been GASKELL After she's been as strong and independent as you have been. I'm the luckiest dog on earth. I don't see how I got you. FRANK Just because you are you. Oh, don't ever disappoint me. Be big and fine and honest always. Let me lean on you and worship you. GASKELL Kiss me. She puts her head back and he bends over her kissing her. Kiddie opens the door and comes in standing amazed. Kiddie Is that what you were talking about? Kissing her? GASKELL No, a man never talks much about that. KIDDIE (Going to Frank and throwing his arms about her and kissing her fiercely.) She says I am the only man that can kiss her. GASKELL Well, let me see if I can do it like that. FRANK No, no. KIDDIE What made you let him do it, Frankie? GASKELL I'll tell you. FRANK No, no, please. I'll tell you after a while, Kiddie, when I put you to bed. GASKELL Will you kiss me too? KIDDIE I'll kick you. GASKELL laughs. FRANK Oh, Kiddie, you don't mean that. KIDDIE Yes, I do. You said I always had to take care of you. FRANK Yes, but (There's a loud knocking at door C). Oh, heavens! Go over there. (Motioning Gaskell away.) KIDDIE I'll tell on you. FRANK Kiddie, you won't do that, will you? You never tell tales, you know. Will you? (He hesitates a second then shakes his head.) GASKELL in a very loud voice going to door. If you'll come down to my room with me, Kiddie, I'll give you (He opens the door. Clara is there waiting with the pillows, coat, etc., which were borrowed.) Oh, I beg your pardon. Did you knock? CLARA Yes, I did. GASKELL I'm afraid I was talking so loud nobody heard you. I say, Kiddie, if you'll come down I'll give you you can tell me what you want most when we get there. (After slight hesitation Kiddie goes to Gaskell. KIDDIE I haven't forgiven him, but I'd like to see what he's got. (Kiddie goes out C. followed by Gaskell.) CLARA Here's your coat. I am so much obliged. I wore it, but I must say I was rather ashamed to after what happened. FRANK I don't care now what happened. CLARA Why? FRANK Because something else has happened that makes that affair this afternoon seem very insignificant. CLARA Does it? I thought you'd be so furious with every one of us that you'd never speak to us again. I was really afraid to come up, but I did. FRANK I'm glad you did. CLARA But I want to tell you I wasn't in it. I didn't FRANK Let's not talk about it. Sit down. How was the exhibition? CLARA A fizzle. A perfect fizzle. FRANK Oh, no. I am so sorry. CLARA Cousin Mabel didn't come at all. Some people she'd asked were there, and of all the snippy snobs I ever saw. They only stayed a minute and were so out of breath and asked me how I could possibly climb 2 flights. Only two, mind. FRANK Good thing they didn't have to come to see me. CLARA One woman asked me why I didn't have one of those lovely studios on 57th Street. Oh, dear, what's the use? (Bursting into tears.) I'm so discouraged I don't know what to do. FRANK Oh, no, you're not. You're tired and nervous. CLARA Yes, I am too discouraged. I've tried just as hard as I can for 10 years and scrimped and scraped and taken snubs and pretended I was ambitious and didn't care for anything but my work, and look at me. Don't even know how I am going to pay my next month's rent. I'm so sick and tired of it all I don't know what to do. I'd marry any man that asked me. FRANK Now you're not going to lose your nerve like this. CLARA I would. I'd marry anything that could pay the bills. Oh, I am so tired of it all. FRANK Poor little girl. It is a hard fight, isn't it? CLARA It doesn't pay. I've been too terribly respectable and conventional all my life to succeed. If I were like you're so strong and independent, you believe in women taking care of themselves. FRANK I believe in women doing the thing they're most fitted for. You should have married, Clara, when you were a young girl and been taken care of all your life. Why didn't you? Don't you believe in that? CLARA No man has ever asked me to marry him. I've never had a real beau in my life. I've always been superfluous and plain. Absolutely superfluous. I'm not necessary to one single human being. I'm just one of those everlasting women that the world is full of. There's nobody to take care of me and I'm simply not capable of taking care of myself. I've tried. God knows I've tried. And what is the use? What under heavens do I get out of it? If I were a man, the most insignificant little runt of a man, I could persuade some woman to marry me and could have a home and children and hustle for my living and life would mean something. Oh, I can't bear it, Frank. I can't bear it. I often wish I were pretty and bad and could have my fling and die. Sobbing, she falls on the couch, huddled and helpless. FRANK Life has been dull and commonplace and colorless for you, but there are worse things than that. You've learned that life is easier for men than for women. You know what it is to struggle for existence. Come and help me in some of the things I'm trying to do for girls. I'd like to have you teach drawing and modeling in this new club we're opening. CLARA Oh, would you? FRANK Would you be willing to live there? To be one of the women in charge and help the girls in a personal way? CLARA Oh, do you think I could help anybody? FRANK Come over and try it, Clara, and see. You'll never wish again that you were pretty and bad after you've seen a girl come off the streets and get to be a decent woman. CLARA I don't think I could actually do anything. But oh, heavens, Frank, I would like to get hold of something. FRANK You A rat-a-tat-tat at the door. That's Fritz. CLARA (Wiping her eyes and blowing her nose.) Oh, dear, I don't want to see anyone. I'm going out through your bedroom. I am so awfully grateful, Frank, but I can't. (She chokes with tears and hurries out. Another rap. Frank opens the door. FRITZ I would like to see you. FRANK Come in. (She goes to sit in armchair below the fire and Fritz closing the door goes to couch.) FRITZ You think I have broken my promise. You think I have been I have talked about you to Lione. Dot is true, but not in de way that you think. I was very foolish and I argue with her and I say a very foolish think, but it was not a bad think. I mean it was not about you at all. It was about you, but it wasn't. I don't think anything but what I always have and dot is that you are de best and de most honest woman in the world. Do you believe dot? FRANK I want to believe it, but oh, Fritz, how could you discuss me at all? I thought you were so different from the others. I've told you everything. How could you talk about it? FRITZ I know. I know I was one big fool, but I lose my head and I said a thing I wish back. FRANK And something else that disappointed me awfully this afternoon. Why on earth didn't you take the chance Mr. Gaskell gave you to play? FRITZ I couldn't. FRANK It can't be because of Malcolm Gaskell himself, can it? FRITZ You must not ask me. FRANK For goodness sake speak out. I'm sick of suspicion and curiosity. How dare they take Kiddie's picture down and try to squeeze something out of it? How dare they? Of course they decided that he looks like me. Isn't it a joke? Let's not have any more made up scandals. If you have anything against Gaskell, go and tell him so like a man. FRITZ You would like to believe in him above any man in the world? FRANK I do. FRITZ Then I will tell him something. Somebody has got to do it for you, but if anything bad should come of this FRANK Oh, I'm not afraid and he wouldn't lie to you. FRITZ You are very sure of him. Don't don't let it mean too much to you if he is not the man you think. It would mean everything to you, won't it? Frankie, don't break your heart about a man. I couldn't bear it if anybody hurt you. He raises her hand to his lips and she slowly puts her other hand on his head. FRANK You've been so good to me, Fritz. FRITZ Don't think I don't want to find him worthy of you. I want you to be happy. You know that, don't you? FRANK I do. FRITZ He is a strong man. He is a success. He can take care of a woman. He has not failed. FRANK Neither have you, Fritz. FRITZ I have nothing to offer a woman. FRANK You have to offer her what money can't buy for her. FRITZ No, the devotion of a lifetime don't count unless a man can say, I can protect you from hunger and cold and keep you safe for always. But I would like to know that some man will do that and that he is worthy of you. FRANK You dear old Fritz, your friendship is the most beautiful thing in my life. Oh, Fritz, life is so hard. Love is such a sad, mad, awful thing. It is the greatest danger in the world, isn't it? The love of men and women. If we could only get along without it. You and I must be friends always, Fritz. Her voice breaks. He tries to speak but turns and goes quickly out. FRITZ (Heard in the hall) No, no, don't go in. LIONE I will. Yes, I will. I guess I can see her if you can. (Lione rushes in.) I don't know what Fritzie has been telling you and I don't care. You said you wanted me to speak plainly, so I suppose you'd like to hear what I mean and why I mean it. I've come up as soon as I could get here. FRANK Well? LIONE Oh, we can't be blind, you know, even to please you. FRANK You mean Kiddie looks like me and you draw the self-evident conclusion. LIONE Oh, no, not at all. We mean he looks like Malcolm Gaskell. FRANK What? LIONE Why you ever let him come here, why you ever undertook such a pose and expected to carry it out is more She stops as Frank goes slowly toward her. FRANK What do you mean? LIONE I mean he's your child and Malcolm Gaskell is his father. FRANK Lione, don't say that. Don't lie about a thing like that. It's too awful. Why do you? Kiddie isn't my child. I can prove it by people who knew his mother. LIONE (Impressed by the blaze of truth in Frank's eyes.) Then who was his father? FRANK I don't know who his father was. LIONE For God's sake, do you mean that? Haven't you ever seen the resemblance to Gaskell? FRANK No, 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 of course not. Not the slightest bit in the world. (Hurrying to desk and taking miniature out of drawer.) It isn't there at all. He doesn't look the least bit like him. See? Look. (They bend over the picture.) What do you see? Where? What? I don't see it, not a thing. Do you? LIONE Well, you I I thought I did. FRANK Did they all say they saw it? All of them? LIONE Yes no, not all of them. You can imagine anything in a picture. FRANK What did Fritz say? LIONE He believes you and always has from the first. FRANK But he saw the resemblance to Gaskell thought he saw it? (Starting.) That's what he meant. That's what he's going to ask Gaskell. Oh, it can't be. It can't be. Look again. What did you think was like him? I don't see a thing. I'm telling the truth as I live. I'd see it if it were there. What is it you think is like him? Tell me. What? What? LIONE Through the eyes. FRANK The eyes? No, I can't see it. I can't see it. It's imagination. You can imagine anything in a picture. You don't see it now, do you? Oh, Lione, any man in the world but Gaskell. (Sinking into chair at right of desk.) LIONE I'm sorry I stirred this up. I ought to have kept my mouth shut. It was imagination. Let it alone, I say. It's the wildest, most improbable thing in the world. FRANK But I've got to know. I've got to know. LIONE Let it alone. Good Lord, you can't stir up any man's life. You're lucky if it looks right on top. If you love him, take him. That's the point. Let it alone. FRANK You don't understand. Whoever Kiddie's father is, I've hated him all these years. Every time I look at Kiddie and think that somewhere in the world is a man who branded him with the shame of every time I see a girl who's made a mess of her life because she's loved a man, I think of Kiddie's poor little mother with the whole burden and disgrace of it and the man scot free. I tell you it's horrible, the whole thing, the relation between men and women. Women give too much. It's made me afraid to love any man. I've prided myself that I never would because of Kiddie. Because I saw and went through that. I feel almost as deeply, as bitterly, as if I really were his mother. Don't you see? Don't you see? LIONE I suppose it does make a difference when a thing is brought home to you. I've never thought much about the whole business myself. Men are pigs, of course. They take all they can get and don't give any more than they have to. It's a man's world, that's the size of it. What's the use of knocking your head against things you can't change? I never believed before that you really meant all this helping women business. What's the use? You can't change anything to save your neck. Men are men. FRANK If women decided that men should be equally disgraced for the same sin, they would be. LIONE Oh, yes, if. That's easy enough to preach. When it comes to morality, a woman never holds anything against a man. What good would it do if she did? She'd be alone. Why, see here, what if just suppose that Malcolm Gaskell were Kiddie's father. You love him, and love is no joke with you. You've let yourself go at last. You've found the one man. What are you going to do about it? Throw him over? Because you happen to find a little incident in his life that doesn't jibe with your theory? Where will you be? What becomes of you? Not much fun for you for the rest of your life. He's the man you want. Take him and thank your lucky stars you have him. That's all I see in it. FRANK It's all you say. He's the one man. But if it were true LIONE Well? FRANK If it were true (She shakes her head. LIONE Oh, bosh. Then you can't marry any man. They're all alike. You know, we've worked ourselves up over nothing after all. I've been at the bottom of all that picture business. It was easy enough to sort of hypnotize the others into it. You can see anything in a picture in Clara's pictures. I've always been looking for something to get hold of about you because I was jealous. I'm a fool about Fritz. Frank quickly puts a hand over Leone's. I can't sing any more. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm a fool and I know it, but I can't help it. FRANK Go away from him for a while, Lione. Get away and he'll go after you. LIONE Oh, I don't know. I don't know. FRANK There it is. Love. What fools it makes us. Oh, I'm afraid of it. LIONE I don't believe this thing's true. Brace up. I don't believe it, not for a minute. FRANK I don't either now. But it frightened me when you KIDDIE (Opening door and pulling Gaskell in by the hand.) Come on. He didn't have anything I wanted but this. (Showing a large pocket knife, Frank goes quickly into her room.) It's got 4 blades. Look at this one. LIONE That's a stunner, isn't it? KIDDIE I can cut anything with it. LIONE Mind you don't cut the legs off the piano. KIDDIE I could. I could cut off your legs too. Kiddie goes to curl up in the left end of couch, busy opening the blades of the knife. There is a pause. LIONE I think Frank wants you, Kiddie. KIDDIE Oh, no, she don't. LIONE (Looking at Gaskell.) I've just been telling Frank GASKELL What? LIONE That I'm sorry for the row I kicked up this afternoon. I think everything is cleared up now. GASKELL A row's a pretty good thing once in a while for clearing the atmosphere. LIONE Well, I tell you, you never know anybody through and through till you fight with them. Good night, Kiddie. (Lione and Gaskell nod to each other and she goes out closing the door. GASKELL (Going to right end of couch.) Don't you think you'd better go to bed now and ask Miss Ware if I can't wait to see her? KIDDIE What do you want to see her for? GASKELL Well, several things. KIDDIE I don't know if I'll let you. GASKELL Oh, please. Frank opens her door and stands watching them. KIDDIE I like you. GASKELL I'm glad. KIDDIE I'm much obliged for the knife. (Giving his hand.) GASKELL (Taking Kiddie's hand.) Don't mention it. KIDDIE But that isn't why I like you. GASKELL Why then? KIDDIE Cause I do. Frank moves a step toward them. GASKELL (Taking Kiddie's other hand.) That's the best reason in the world, isn't it? FRANK You must say good night now, Kiddie. KIDDIE (To Gaskell) Do you mind if I go? GASKELL I'll have to stand it. Frank moves above the fireplace still watching them intently. KIDDIE (Standing upon arm of couch.) I'm as tall as you are. GASKELL (Turning his back.) Come on. KIDDIE (Climbing on Gaskell's back.) Get up. Look, Frankie. Kiddie laughs as Gaskell carries him across to the door L. and puts him down. GASKELL Good night, old man. KIDDIE Good night. Frankie, you come in 10 minutes. He goes in, closing the door. GASKELL He gets hold of you when you're alone with him, doesn't he? When he says he likes you, it sort of makes a fellow throw out his chest. What's the matter? Why do you look at me like that? FRANK Nothing. Was I staring? GASKELL Tired? FRANK Perhaps I am a little. GASKELL It's been rather an exciting day. Your hands are as cold as ice. Have you got nerves? FRANK No, I haven't. GASKELL You know, the more I think about what you've done for Kiddie, the more I like you for it. FRANK Do you? GASKELL (Holding her by the arms.) Yes, I do. It begins to sink into me what the boy means to you, and that you actually believe all your ideas. I begin to see how through your love for the boy and his mother's tragedy, you're sort of taken up a fight for all women. FRANK Yes, that's it. GASKELL I never thought before that you actually believed that things ought to be the same for men and women. FRANK No, I know you didn't. GASKELL But I see that you believe it so deeply that you think it's a thing to go by, live by. FRANK Of course. GASKELL You couldn't get far by it. FRANK Not far. No. You wouldn't have asked me to marry you if Kiddie had been my own child. GASKELL Oh, I don't. I I love you. I want you. But when I knew he was not, the greatest change came that can come to a man. A radiance went over you. I wanted to kneel at your feet and worship you. That's the way all men feel towards good women, and you can't change it. No woman with that in her life could be the same to any man, no matter how he loved her or what he said or swore. It's different. It's different. A man wants the mother of his children to be the purest in the world. FRANK Yes, and a man expects the purest woman in the world to forgive him anything, everything. It's wrong. It's hideously wrong. GASKELL It's life. Listen to me, sweetheart. I want to help you do the sensible thing about Kiddie. FRANK What do you mean? GASKELL Don't you see that you must let it be known positively who his mother was? FRANK That's just what I will not do. GASKELL Wait. You've hurt yourself by keeping still about him. What good can you do him by that? You can't take away the curse that will follow him. He'll have to fight that himself. Don't you see it would be much better to tell the whole business while he's little, too little to know anything about it, and then send him away, put him in some good school. FRANK Give him up, you mean? GASKELL No, not at all. I don't ask you to do that. Watch over him, of course, and be a sort of guardian, but clear this thing about yourself. What's the matter? FRANK No, turn your head that way, sideways. GASKELL What are you looking at? What do you see? Gray hairs? The whole point, dear girl, is that you can't to save your life make things right for the boy. FRANK You mean I can't take away the shame that his father put upon him? GASKELL Yes. FRANK What would you think of Kiddie's father if you ever saw him? GASKELL Oh, let's not go into that again. Nobody knows the circumstances. You can't judge. Think about what I've said. We won't say anything more about it now. (He goes to her and turns her toward him.) Do you love me? FRANK I shall never give Kiddie up. GASKELL I wish you'd tell me what you are looking at. You look as though you saw Frank, what's the matter with you? FRANK Nothing. Stand over there. GASKELL This is very funny. FRANK Oh, don't. (Quickly putting her hand over her eyes.) GASKELL (Going to her.) Frank, are you ill? For heaven's sake tell me what FRANK I've got a blinding headache. I can't see anything. GASKELL Do you want me to go? (She nods her head slowly, staring at him.) I'm awfully sorry. Why didn't you tell me before and I wouldn't have. Frank, there's something the matter. You've got to tell me. What do you think you see? (Taking hold of her.) FRANK Please go. GASKELL Are you angry? Look at me. Tell me what it is. FRANK Please just go. I want to think. Go now, please, please. I can't see. Hurt and a little angry, he moves backwards toward door. Oh, it can't be. It isn't. It can't be. It can't be. It isn't. It isn't. GASKELL What? FRANK Did you ever know a girl named Alice Ellery? GASKELL (After a pause.) Who told you that? FRANK Oh, you did? GASKELL Who told you? Who told you? FRANK No one. GASKELL Was it anybody here in this house? FRANK How did you know her? I mean Oh, tell me. GASKELL Do you know the whole business? FRANK I don't know anything. GASKELL You do. You do. FRANK No, I don't. I'm not prying into your life. It isn't that. But you must tell me something. I've got to know. I've got to know. (She drags herself to the couch. Gaskell goes to the fire and after a long pause speaks in a low hard tone.) GASKELL It happened about 6 years ago. I never said anything about marrying her. She knew what she was doing. FRANK But did you desert her? GASKELL I didn't. She went away. FRANK And you never heard from her? GASKELL Never. FRANK Never knew what happened to her? GASKELL No. She left a note saying she knew then she'd been a fool and that she couldn't face the rest. I'm not proud of it, you know. I'd give a good deal to wipe it out, but it happened. Are you going to hold it up against me? Is that one of your theories? Who told you? FRANK No one. I knew her. I was in Paris then. She came to me. GASKELL And she told you who FRANK Oh, not that it was you. No, no. GASKELL How did you know then? FRANK Her child was born in my house. GASKELL What? FRANK It was Kiddie. GASKELL No. FRANK They've seen the likeness. I've just seen it. I had to ask you. I had to know. GASKELL Kiddie? FRANK Kiddie. Kiddie. GASKELL Don't take it like that. I love you better than my life. (Trying to take hold of her.) FRANK Oh, don't. GASKELL Look here, Frank. We love each other and we've got to face it. FRANK Yes, we've got to face it. GASKELL Nothing can separate us. FRANK We are separated. GASKELL Only by your ideas. FRANK My ideas? They're horrible realities now because it's you. GASKELL Frank. FRANK Every time I've looked at Kiddie I've cursed the man who ruined his mother and branded him with disgrace. GASKELL Frank, stop. FRANK I've loathed and despised that man, I tell you. And it's you. Before it was someone else anyone someone unknown but now it's you. (She stops. They both turn with horror as Kiddie in his night clothes stands watching them, a little wondering figure. The curtain falls. End of Act 3. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act 4 of A Man's World, a play in 4 acts by Rachel Crothers. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Act 4. Time immediately following Act 3. Place same as Act 3. At curtain, Frank and Gaskell are standing as at end of Act 3. Kiddie. Why don't you come, Frankie? FRANK (moving slowly). Come, Kiddie. Kiddie hangs his head, then looks up at Gaskell slowly. Kiddie. Kiddie pushes past her and goes to Gaskell. Frank goes into her room. KIDDIE Don't you like me any more? Gaskell doesn't answer. Do you want me to give the knife back? (Moving closer to Gaskell.) It's the best knife I ever had. I found another blade. Look. (Taking knife out of pocket and leaning against Gaskell to show it.) You open it. Don't you want to? Kiddie looks steadily at Gaskell and then puts his hands on Gaskell's chest. Are you mad at me? Don't you like me any more? Kiddie throws his arms about Gaskell's neck. Gaskell holds him tensely a moment. FRANK (calling from her room). Come, Kiddie. KIDDIE I've got to go now, but I'll see you to morrow. (He goes in. There is a knock at hall door. After a moment Gaskell opens it. Fritz stands in doorway. I came to find you. I went to your room. Are you going back now? GASKELL No, I'm going out. FRITZ I have something to say to you. GASKELL Well, say it. FRITZ Not here. GASKELL Go on. Miss Ware is putting Kiddie to bed. FRITZ I would rather you GASKELL Say what you've got to say now. I'm in a hurry. FRITZ I there has been you know there has been some talk about Kiddie. GASKELL Confounded impertinent set here. FRITZ Miss Ware is in a wrong position and someone has got to make it right for her. GASKELL Look here, you're meddling with something that doesn't concern you. FRITZ No, I'm not meddling. Someone has got to do this for her. GASKELL You needn't trouble yourself. You can tell the rest of your curious friends that I know who this boy is. FRITZ You know? GASKELL And I've asked Miss Ware to marry me. That clears the whole business. FRITZ No, it doesn't. GASKELL What are you trying to do? I know all about him, I tell you. And if there's any more of this damnable talk they'll answer to me. FRITZ You know who the mother was? GASKELL I not only knew who she was, I knew her. That's enough. FRITZ You knew the fadder also? GASKELL That has nothing to do with Miss Ware. FRITZ Yes, it has. There has been a horrible thing said here in this house. They say he is her child and yours. GASKELL It's a lie. FRITZ Part of it is a lie, but he is yours. GASKELL Why, damn you, what FRITZ Listen to me. I have seen this strange and strong resemblance. I have watch him. I have watch you till I have come to think you are his fadder. A pause. Gaskell looks at Fritz, then moves away. For the love of God, if it is true, don't marry this woman without telling her. It will kill her if she ever find it out. GASKELL Now see here, Bon. Miss Ware does know who Kiddie's father is. FRITZ No, she does not know. GASKELL Yes, she does, and she is going to marry me. That clears the whole thing. FRITZ No, it does not clear her name. It will only make them sure of what they think now that he is her child and yours. GASKELL It's a hellish infernal lie and I'll LIONE (Rapping loudly and opening the hall door quickly.) What are you doing? You're shouting so the whole house can hear you. (Wells appears in door behind her.) GASKELL Come in here. Shut the door. (Lione enters, Wells follows, closing the door.) So this is what you've been saying about her. You've been lying about a good woman. LIONE What have you told him, Fritz? GASKELL The whole business, and I'll tell you who the boy is. I knew the mother. Maybe you'll believe that when I tell you the boy is mine. There is a pause. They all watch Gaskell as he goes to stand before fire, his back to them. I only found this out a little while ago from something Miss Ware told me about his mother who died in her house. I hope this knocks the truth into you. LIONE For my part, I'm pretty much ashamed of what I've had to do in this. GASKELL It's happened. That's the end of it. WELLS I consider what has just been said a sacred confidence. I take my oath it will be so with me. (Lione and Fritz and Wells look at each other and slightly bow their heads in acknowledgment of a pledge.) GASKELL Whether Miss Ware will marry me now, I don't know. That's all I have to say. (Wells opens the door for Lione and follows her out. Fritz hesitates, takes a short step toward Gaskell, turns and goes out, closing the door. Gaskell remains looking into the fire as Frank comes back.) FRANK This thing isn't going to make any difference in our lives, is it? FRANK (Closing the door after her quietly.) Whatever I do, Malcolm, you'll know I do without bitterness, without any spirit of revenge. GASKELL You mean if you throw me over? FRANK I mean if the future doesn't seem possible for us together. GASKELL Why shouldn't it be possible? FRANK You know. GASKELL No, I don't. This thing has been a shock to you, of course. It's shaken you terribly. But you haven't given me any real reason, any facts why there shouldn't be a future for us. I love you and I am going to have you. FRANK (Moving away from him.) Oh, don't please. I must. GASKELL (Following her.) There's little enough in the world worth having, heaven knows. Why should we miss each other? FRANK Kiddie Kiddie. GASKELL We love each other. That's the first thing to reckon with. FRANK Oh, you don't know yet what I mean. GASKELL Talk won't get us anywhere. We've got to look this thing square in the face as it is. Either you throw me over or you let me give you the rest of my life and make you happy. FRANK Oh, that isn't GASKELL I love you, Frank. I'd lay down my life for you. You're the whole world to me. FRANK Love isn't the only thing in the world. GASKELL It's the biggest thing. We've found each other. Look at me. You know it's the one perfect thing on earth a perfect love and we've found it. FRANK It never could be perfect while you believe what you do. GASKELL What's that got to do with the facts? FRANK Do you believe it wasn't wrong just because you are a man? GASKELL Oh! FRANK Do you believe that? GASKELL (After a pause.) Yes. FRANK Oh! GASKELL Good heavens, Frank. I thought you were so much bigger than the average woman. All women kick against this, and what good does it do? Why, since the beginning of time one thing has been accepted for a man and another for a woman. Why on earth do you beat your head against a stone wall? Why do you try to put your ideals up against the facts? FRANK I'm not talking about my ideals now, nor the accepted thing. I'm talking about you, that girl, this child. You think I must excuse what you did that it really wasn't wrong at all just because you are a man. GASKELL It's too late to say these things to me now. You know, must have known when you first knew me that that I'd lived a man's life. When you first loved me, why didn't you think of all this? FRANK Ah, that's just it. I loved you. I took you as all women take men without question. Oh, don't you see I'm not looking for something bad in men? If it hadn't been for him if he hadn't been put into my arms a little helpless nameless thing if I hadn't seen that girl suffer the tortures of hell through her disgrace, I probably wouldn't have thought any more about this than most women do. GASKELL Isn't our love more to you than that? FRANK No. GASKELL Good God, Frank! You're a woman. You talk like a woman. You think like a woman. I'm a man. What do you expect? We don't live under the same laws. It was never meant to be. Nature made men different. FRANK Don't make nature the excuse for ruining the life of a good girl. Oh, Malcolm! (Putting her hand on his arm.) Do you think it wasn't wrong? GASKELL (Drawing her to him.) I only know I love you. You said you loved me. I won't give you up. FRANK Oh! GASKELL You're angry now. When you've had time to think you'll see. Frank, I love you. I love you. FRANK (Getting away from him.) Oh, no, no. GASKELL Frank, you're not as cold and hard as that. You're going to forgive me. FRANK Oh, I want to forgive you. If you could only see if your soul could only see. Oh, dear God! Malcolm, tell me you know it was wrong, that you'd give your life to make it right. Say that you know this thing was a crime. GASKELL No. Don't try to hold me to account by a standard that doesn't exist. Don't measure me by your theories. If you love me you'll stand on that and forget everything else. FRANK I can't. GASKELL I'm not a man to beg, Frank. Do you want me to go? Is that it? Is this the end? FRANK There's nothing else. GASKELL Do you mean that? FRANK There's nothing else. It is the end. (He goes out closing the door. The curtain falls. End of Act IV. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. End of A Man's World, a play in 4 acts by Rachel Crothers.